The last one I have written up here is Mara, Marathon Digital Earning. They've got their earnings Tuesday after close. This name ran up along with Bitcoin hitting new recent all-time highs, but sold off about 20% since. Mara operates large-scale data centers primarily focused on mining Bitcoin. Expectations of negative 49 cents per share, but there's an 57% increase in revenue from last quarter. Double beat mean we could see back above $20 a share, but a miss could drop it back down between 14 to 16. So, you guys are used to seeing my charts here. We've got a very large distribution pattern with a huge peak up above at about almost $85, and then a drop all the way down, almost 90 to 95% down toward the lows, back under $5. Now we're in this pattern. It could kind of look like a bit of a bull flag in terms of it, but we've just been chopping back around. We saw this run up over here in terms of Bitcoin and the new all-time highs for Bitcoin, and we've just seen the drop back down since. What was interesting though too is we did have quite a few unusual prints come in very recently. I don't think they panned out as well. They were aiming, I think, for end of last week, and then some of these aiming for the 1st of August, where they're aiming for above 19 and a half and above 21 and a half. Right now it's trading around $17. So Marathon, it is related to Bitcoin, but it's one of the ones that moves a little bit more poorly compared to other Bitcoin names such as MicroStrategy and things like that. But I would definitely say with that sell-off, and we'll have to keep an eye on it on Monday. We've got a lot of these calls coming in that are very short term, so I do think that we might see a bit of a pop for this name when it comes down to after earnings. Anything you got to
There are,
say?
yeah, there are things that make me nervous. Their EPS is a 49-cent loss,
Yeah.
which is a 104%, like negative 104% change year over year.
Okay.
So that makes me a little nervous. Revenues are expected, however, to be at 220.24 million, and that's up 51% year over year. So it kind of balances it out in a sense, because now like they might be only down 54% year over year combined. Now, one thing I don't like is over the last 4 quarters, the company has beaten consensus EPS estimates one time, which is not like a great indicator, especially because it would be one thing if it was like, well, Bitcoin just started taking off. It's like, no, Bitcoin has been taking off for about, let's say, the last 18 months, right? Mara has had very minimal reaction compared to the micro strategies and these other companies that are a little more involved. So I guess like the one thing I've never been able to figure out with Mara is like, why? Like, why don't you move the way your friends do?
I have a theory about this, and I was thinking about it.
Mhm.
Was their main business model is mining Bitcoin, okay? And yes, Bitcoin is going up in value, but that just means their company is worth a little more. It's not reflected upon their bottom line, right? They're spending money on energy, on infrastructure, on making sure they've got the rigs and the data processing power in order to mine Bitcoin. And they have a lot of Bitcoin. And as Bitcoin hits all-time highs, what separates it from MicroStrategy? MicroStrategy is actually purchasing it, and it's reflected in terms of their value of their company's gone up because now it's a profit margin that they're getting. And while Mara at this point is they have that Bitcoin, they don't it's not revenue until they go and sell it, right? So that's one of the issues with it is yes, they might be worth more. They've got I saw something where they are one of the top like 5 holdings of Bitcoin, which is great, but their bottom line tends to struggle because you are spending a lot of money on making sure you maintain your infrastructure and to maintain the amount of energy that you need to use to mine that. So, you know, they don't really make money otherwise, right? It's just based upon the value of Bitcoin coming in and how they, they get a fraction of it for using, their data and their power. So I think that's kind of the flaw within their strategy. Now, obviously, I only know so much about Bitcoin and this stuff. So if I'm wrong here, please let me know. That's just my theory on it. It's just it's not fully reflected on that bottom line, and it's pretty much saying you have all these computers running at all times, and your energy bill is super duper high, and that's what's leading into these negative EPSs, right?
Well, one thing I've seen here that's kind of interesting is their ESP right now is at plus 55%, which just represents most analysts are expecting an EPS beat for this quarter. So that could be a thing. I don't know. I think maybe we could see a run up because I will say if you look at like the last 2 months, there's like an obscene amount of unusual Mara calls that have come in
Yeah.
between June and July. And I've tailed some of them and I made money on some of them, but granted, some of them were like literal 2 hour flashes in the pans because if you didn't sell within that 2 hour window, those things went to 0.01 real
Yeah.
quick.
And I'm thinking that EPS is already baked in, especially with this sell-off.
Mhm.
It is kind of in this pattern where it could bounce off that lower end of this channel. So that's what I've got to say. But yeah, I mean, look at if you take a look at their quarterly income statement, Q1 was a negative 249% margin. Their revenue was $213 million, and their net income was a negative 533. So, you know, there's some issues with it at the end of the day, and a lot of people complain about how this doesn't move that well compared to MicroStrategy and Bitcoin, but it's supposed to be a Bitcoin name. But a lot of it just has to do with the fact that as a company they struggle, right? They're not actually making good money.